Hello and welcome to the new series of Drishti IAS. I am Pooja Dwivedi, and in this segment today we are going to discuss extremely important topic, the rise of Islamic State in Afghanistan. This topic is very important from the perspective of prelims as well as mains, especially mains. So kindly pay attention to each and everything I am saying because the content is very rich for your answer writing. Okay, so let's begin with the topics of discussion. As always, starting with the news, we will cover everything in detail as well as in a very interesting manner. So, bombings have occurred at the Kabul airport, one at the Abbey Gate and the second one at the Paran Hotel. So, these bombings have occurred because of suicide bombers and a gunner. It has, of course, brought to the fore the clear issues with the sweeping, of course, the quick withdrawal of the US troops. Everything is happening because of that. The more hubristic and emboldened the Taliban are, as well as the Islamic State is right now. So, we will cover everything in detail. First, not only the soldiers of the US have fallen, 13 soldiers approximately, but also 28 Talibans have been killed and 60 Afghans have been killed and many injured. So, this is a very chaotic situation in Afghanistan. It has, of course, opened the security challenges for not only India but the world as well. Moving on, if we talk about this map, you can see with the help of this map where the explosions happened. First explosion was at the gate to Paran Hotel where UK troops were staying and many Afghans who were supposed to go board a flight to the UK, those were staying at the Paran Hotel and those were targeted. Second happened at the Abbey Gate. So, near the Hamid Karzai airport, this happened. Why the airport was targeted? The airport was targeted because many flocked to the Kabul airport to evacuate the country. Evacuations are going on right now from the US as well as many other countries, but many other countries before the attacks, they have stopped evacuation. So, this attack is not done by Taliban or the US, but the Islamic State of Khorasan province. Moving on, let's talk about the new challenge, that is Islamic State of Khorasan province. Islamic State of Khorasan province came to the fore in the year 2014 and this is a group made of Afghan Talibans as well as Pakistan Talibans who were not having their ideologies in congruence with Taliban. So they defected and they formed a new group by the name of Islamic State of Khorasan province. And in the year 2015, through a video clip, the leader of ISKP, 𝐈𝐀𝐒 𝐏𝐫𝐞𝐥𝐢𝐬, he claimed and he said that he has this allegiance. The ISKP had allegiance to the ISIS, the main ISIS. The main ISIS was headed by Baghdadi. So, in the year 2016, 𝐈𝐀𝐒 𝐏𝐫𝐞𝐥𝐢𝐬 was killed by a drone attack which was done by the US. And in the year 2019, Baghdadi, he committed suicide by wearing a suicide vest. So, Islamic State back then started diminishing. As you can see, with the help of this particular map, Islamic State from January 2015 to 19. It started diminishing with the constant striving at the network of IS, but it has again raised its head. So, if we talk about ISKP, that is Islamic State of Khorasan province. Khorasan is an ancient region which is supposed to span Iraq, Afghanistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan. So, as you can see, and a bit of that region, Pakistan, and that region of till the region of China as well. So, as you can see, this region is known as Khorasan and it spans main Afghanistan and Middle East. So, you can understand with the help of this map what is the reach of ISKP. Okay. So, ISKP, if we talk about it in detail, then first their goal is really to have an Islamic emirate. And they are allegedly, not supposedly, the competitors of Al-Qaeda as well as the Taliban. Why? In his statement on Thursday, Joe Biden did say that these two are actually enemies. Okay? These two are enemies and they are fighting for resources and territory. As there is a power vacuum there right now, none have been there to have a legitimate power in Afghanistan right now. The Taliban have claimed it violently, but there is no legitimacy. So now there is a fight for legitimacy. And differences also occur in ideology. They say, the ISKP say that Taliban have their ideology based on narrow ethnic and nationalistic views, just narrowed to Afghanistan. But ISKP has their ideologies which is based on the pan-world Islamic creed. That is what they claim. So there is a difference in ideology as well. So the Center for Strategic and Intelligence Study did count that almost 100 attacks by the group in Afghanistan and Pakistan by 2018 were done by ISKP itself. And monitors of UN sanction believe, keep these data in mind because you have to write it in the exams if they ask. Monitors of UN sanctions believe that the affiliate has around 2,000 fighters in eastern and northern Afghanistan, but also noted that the group has had to decentralize after significant territorial losses. The group has claimed responsibility for a string of high-profile attacks, including the May bombing of girls' school in Kabul. So, if we talk about ISKP resorts to extremely violent means, as the Taliban do, by beheading of the tribal leaders, also by bombing of the schools, not letting girls go to school, and many other violent tactics which are very medieval in nature. Now, again, you can see factional differences, ideological differences, and many other differences will rise in Afghanistan. Many other outfits will also occur. That is what power vacuum does. We will talk about it in detail and as the segment progresses, okay? So, how has the US reacted? In a very emotional speech, the President of the US, Joe Biden, after having or acknowledging silence for the fallen soldiers, did say that we will avenge the deaths. We will avenge the death of the fallen soldiers and those who are responsible for it. We will hunt you down. And I quote and unquote. So vengeance is on the table right now for the US, and the US has also, the US already got the imminent threat, the information about imminent threat by the ISKP. They did warn the US did get the warning that people should stay away from Kabul airport because ISKP's attack was very imminent. And the US has, after acknowledging vengeance and vengeance in the near future to come, they are still embracing for more attacks by IS and the Taliban as well. But the evacuation procedure will not be deterred, as the President says. Let's move forward and talk about India's scenario over here. Here I have put a news piece where it is saying that India unlikely to allow the return of 4 Kerala women who joined IS. So, these 4 women from Kerala, they accompanied their husbands who had joined the IS. They were killed, and after that the women surrendered. They want to come back to India, but India can't do that because India does not want to have any sort of network. It's an internal as well as external security challenge. Moving on, UN report in the month of June this year itself, it came out with a report. The UN report came out with certain findings which are menacing. If we talk about this report, the threats are menacing. And it is an extremely volatile situation for Afghanistan right now, but it will be if these networks are not broken down. That growing Taliban, Al-Qaeda, ISIS nexus is there in Afghanistan and Pakistan region. Taliban, as according to the Doha Agreement, did agree to the former US President Trump. They did say that we will not let the soils of Afghanistan to be used against the US as well as allies. But how can we make sure of that? How can we make sure of that when Taliban cannot control such outfits like IS? And why is it not acknowledging their ties with Al-Qaeda? They have hidden nexus. According to Mr. Saleh, who is the caretaker president of Afghanistan right now after the flight of the former president. So he did say there is a nexus between them. According to the UN report, it is said there that there is a nexus, and it is cemented by strong matrimonial ties as well, because the second generations, they are into the ties of matrimony, which is giving cement and concretizing their ties. And assessing the geographical reach of Al-Qaeda, the Salafist jihadists who are at war in Syria, to have an Islamic state in Syria, Islamic state in the Syrian region, is actually having ties with the Al-Qaeda of Indian subcontinent. So Indian subcontinent, Al-Qaeda of Indian subcontinent has a nexus in Afghanistan and Pakistan, not only Afghanistan, Pakistan, as we saw the case of Kerala, in India, Myanmar and Bangladesh as well. And this tie is very threatening to the entire Indian subcontinent. And the Taliban have used Haqqani factions to deal with Al-Qaeda, according to the report. Haqqani factions, the notorious faction which was responsible for the 26/11 attacks in Mumbai. Then the report also pointed the presence of al-Zawahiri in this region. Al-Zawahiri, who asked Mujahideen to inflict relentless blows on the Indian government in the Jammu and Kashmir region and Indian army. This group did say that there is a cross-border terrorism inflicted in the Jammu and Kashmir region by the Pakistan's Prime Minister. So you can understand what threat India is facing right now. Also, the report provides the larger picture of the role of ISIL, that is Islamic State of Levant and Khorasan region. Also, role of Pakistan in the continuation of violence, because as we saw the statements by the Prime Minister Imran Khan before, he used to say that no other country will be more interested than Pakistan in the stability of Afghanistan. But now, after the Taliban took over Afghanistan, what was his reaction? The reaction was that Afghans have actually come out of slavery. So you can understand from these entire findings, very important from the perspective of mains examination, these could be written and it will fetch you brownie points. So you can understand the threat India has, not only India, but the entire world. Because this is a very costly power vacuum. Power vacuum basically is a void of in the political structure where no legitimate power holder is there, as in Afghanistan. And this is because of the hasty withdrawal of the US troops. They did not take into account how destabilizing it could be for the Central Asia region. They did not withdraw after having a proper power sharing agreement. If they could have a proper power sharing agreement and did not move away in haste, things could have been different. But it did not happen. Similar incident was there in Iraq in the year 2003 when Saddam Hussein was killed and there was no legitimate power there to rule the country. No legitimate power, it caused many factions and terrorist outfits to occur, giving birth to the ISIS. So if similar issues start happening in Afghanistan, the US and India, they both have divergences on the way the US moved out of Afghanistan. So you can see the threat it has. Then, of course, refugee crises. So many refugees are in waiting right now to evacuate the country, that is Afghanistan, because of the return of the dark days. Women, children, they are trying to move away from Afghanistan, moving into India. India being the most proximate, safest region for Afghans right now, they're of course looking towards India. India is a helping hand here. India has invested heavily in Afghanistan. There are more than 500 plus good projects, very concrete projects in India. The Taliban still want India to keep on investing in Afghanistan, but if there are security challenges, then how can India have investment in Afghanistan under Taliban. So that is another problem. Moving on, let's talk about what is the way forward as an aspirant. And as an IAS future officers, you have to think from the balanced and positive mind. However grim the situation is, we always should conclude on a positive note. So the first one is increasing deployment on the borders, especially with respect to Jammu and Kashmir, because as I discussed, the Al-Zawahiri, they have through the Never Forget Kashmir said that Pakistan is actually increasing cross-border terrorism in India. Also, constant intelligence sharing between intelligence in every country that is affected, and almost every country is affected right now, because not only the regions which are closer to Afghanistan right now, but they have a nexus through cyber. Cyber networking plays a very major role in encouraging attacks such as lone wolves. So we have to be very careful about that as well. Role of the UN, United Nations. United Nations Security Council, through this, on August 16, China did ask Taliban to make a clean break from terror outfits. And not only China, but Pakistan will also be at the receiving end of any sort of terrorist attack. So UN, with the help of UN, countries such as China, India, US, and major powers Russia, every power should come together and try to have intelligence sharing database, because right now the situation is very chaotic. Diplomacy is something that cannot be established with illegitimate governments, so we should know that. Constant intelligence sharing, constant power balance in the region, with the help of not only US and China but Russia as well. Something of that arrangement could be made. India should look to cut ties with any person who is involved with the IS, and India will rightly do so. India should try to have a look into the intelligence within its own country that have deep roots and deep connectivity with the help of social media, the systematic disuse of social media. So all these things are too much to take in, I know, but if you pay attention to each and every news that is coming along with respect to Afghanistan, you will be able to form an opinion by yourself. So let's move on to our mains-based question. With regard to recent attacks in Afghanistan, analyze the new security challenges for the Indian subcontinent, and you have to write it in 250 words. So that's it for today. Tomorrow we shall meet again with another segment. Until then, stay updated and thank you so much for watching.